I think the thing that I find the coolest about Kentucky, I mean, in addition to the fact that the rich tradition of great teams and great players that have played here, I love the way the fans like to come out and show their pride. And the way I define that is they like to tell the nation, we're Kentucky, you're not. You know, everybody else has to live up to this. Look, don't misunderstand. That's not saying that any particular set of fans is better than another one. Everybody shows their pride in different ways. But I love the fact that they want to come out and say, you're not having an event that pertains to Kentucky basketball that we don't support. And I think it's really cool. And we're very grateful for it because we hope they come out to enjoy the show, but we know they're here because of their team and their pride in their team and their program.
Was Digger aware of how he's received here before today? And is it clear now to him?
Listen to me. You know what? I think the thing with Digger, and I was telling a Kentucky fan this that I flew up with, I said, you know what? All this social media stuff, you know, they remember the listen to me thing at Vanderbilt. I said, he'll have them eating out of his hand in about 5 minutes. And he pretty much did. Digger is awesome with the crowd. And, you know, he's got great respect for Kentucky in this place. And he gives us a lot of energy in terms of being able to work with the crowd. So he had fun with it. He enjoys it. It's great.
What about this team? What do you expect to see tonight? Just a little previews.
I think that, you know, what Cal was saying during the interview segment is right. They're going to have to adjust the way they play. They've got to play a little tougher. I think Billis during our show hit it perfectly. They've got to do a lot of the tough-minded things to win. I happen to think that they've got enough talent on this team and certainly enough good coaching. I think they'll win enough to get in the tournament. And, you know, I still even look at the projections, and I understand the resumes and all that stuff. And I said, I really think there are 37 teams better. Probably 237 teams better than they were last Saturday, but that was just one game, you know. So, you know, I think they'll eventually make it in the tournament. And tonight, Missouri hasn't played well on the road. And this is not a great place to come in and all of a sudden decide you're going to get your road warrior on.
Why do you think that is?
Why Missouri hasn't played well on the road? You know, I called a couple of their games. They haven't made winning plays down the gut of the game. I mean, I called the Texas A&M game that they had in hand, and they sort of had an inexplicable turnover late. You know, let Fabian Harris, I think, get a good look at a bucket, and they've had a couple of games like that. Arkansas last weekend, they kind of had the thing in hand and let it get away. So, you know, I don't know if you can put your finger on it. You can look at the numbers and say, you know, assist-to-turnover ratio is a lot worse on the road, and, you know, people blame Pressey, which probably is not altogether fair. But it's just they've had some close games, and they just haven't made plays at the end. But I think they're a really good team, only team in the country with 6 guys scoring in double figures. They've got a post guy that's learning how to be a go-to offensive guy. He's not used to that. Alex not used to that at UConn, and he's getting used to it. That's what Missouri would like for him to do. He's got a national championship ring. They got a lot going for them as we come down the last 3 weeks.
What do you think of the Preston-Harrell matchup?
President. I mean, it's one. I noticed that Harrell said in the paper this morning that it's the matchup that everybody's been waiting on. I'm not sure I'm quite putting it in that category yet, but it will be an intriguing one. I think one of the things that the people who've watched Harrell over the course of the year said, if he plays within the system and just tries to play ball and doesn't worry about the spectacular, then he's a much more effective player. And you know, I've had a couple of guys tell me that they would like to see Preskey get more Gretzky's, meaning not assist, but the pass that leads to the pass, instead of always going for the, you know, spectacular. We know he can deliver the spectacular, you know, and, you know, a couple of coaches have said that, and we'll see how he plays tonight.
How much different is this team obviously with Noel? You know, does that have to come into, you know, as a factor? The NCAA committee's already said, you know, you have to evaluate this team without him now.
I mean, they're a lot different because when you have a guy that can block shots like that, you can make all kinds of mistakes. You know what? And I was guilty of saying that. I said I wasn't going to say that anymore. The other thing it allows you to do is you can be more aggressive because you've got confidence that I can take a chance here because Nerlens will clean it up. And, you know, it changes the mindset a little bit for sure.
Is that kind of tough just from the team perspective? Do you feel like a young team that's had to go through a couple of things, Harrow out earlier in the season, Willie Cauley sits out a few games with his own issue with the knee, and now Nerlens, of course, sitting out. How difficult is it to roll with the punches?
I mean, you'd have to ask them and ask guys who've coached and played at that level. You know, from an observer standpoint, I think it's always tough because I think the most underestimated thing in team sports, whether it's basketball or football, is the mental aspect, the psychology, and the confidence and the chemistry of teams, and it's an elusive thing. You know, there are some people say, you know, you have a bunch of guys in your team that all of the scouts want, you got a good team. That may not be necessarily true all the time because there's a difference in being a good collection of players and being a really good team. So it's difficult. I think it's the hardest thing, and I think it's the one thing that's probably spoiled Kentucky fans, and understandably so. Calipari's been masterful in bringing in all of these new guys and having them bond. Now, he's great at it, but he's also had the benefit of having unbelievably unique personalities. I mean, you have the first two guys in the draft, and they're as unselfish as those two guys were. It's unheard of, and it's a remarkable thing, and it's a tribute to them.
What about his bag of tricks? You go from dodgeball to just the Breakfast Club last year. He's got all these. It seems like every week there's something new that he tries to get this team to bond with.
I like the dodgeball thing because it gave us an opportunity to throw dodgeballs at Digger. So that was a really good. I also found some wrenches that I was going to throw at him too, but I was afraid I would damage the floor here at Rupp, and I don't have the money. I don't have Billis money to pay for that.